Well, don't forget on the course here, Roger Williams and Navy, black and yellow. Looks like Roger Williams still in control of this one. I don't see the 6th boat. They're trailing way behind. That's what it is. We've got another Navy boat way back. So Roger Williams does have an ace there, and it looks like they're in pretty good position as they come up wind the second time here.
I'm not sure they're as good as, well, maybe they are.
Yeah, it's hard to tell from here. We can't see how much separation these boats have to windward when they're on starboard tack, but it looks like
really
Roger Williams has a
Absolutely.
pretty,
Yep. 1-2 for sure.
1-2.
We'll see if this last boat for Roger Williams can get to that far right yellow boat, though. I'm not sure they do have that ace. And you're far, well, there you go.
There you go. I was wrong. Yep.
So hard to tell. But yeah, so once again, and you see, we just happen to see this a lot in these light shifty conditions. This 1-2 without the ace again. So, and good execution, I think, there by Navy. You know, even though you're still chasing a winning combination in the 1-2, you're happy to chase a 1-2-6 in these conditions.
Mm-hmm.
So if you can, you know, it's a good goal to get to the windward mark, chasing a 1-2-6, because it's not that hard to break up. So we'll see if Navy's got the wheels to do it, and if Roger Williams can hang on this run.
And if you're on a computer watching this one in high quality, you can really see the variation in wind speed across the course. Closer to the camera, you've got a big dark patch up where the boats are there on the second leg of the course. They're going quite a bit slower, but we should see another puff roll down on this downwind leg. Again, this variability in conditions, definitely an advantage for the trailing team.
But a relatively healthy gap there for Roger Williams. That should be more than enough to hang on, barring a crazy wind shift, at least for the downwind. As we see, the upwinds kind of can get even more hairy on that last beat.
Well, as those guys head downwind, we have another race coming up to the start line. This will be race 86 coming up, St. Mary's in blue versus Hobart in red.
So Hobart should really look to get a win here to get a, move into a tie with Navy if Navy does in fact lose that race to Roger Williams.
Look at, boy, we talked about breeze variability. Those guys all have bow wakes coming off of their boats as they head out to the course. But once they get there, they may be greeted with a giant lull. So that race coming up next, and of course we just saw Brown take the win over Stanford. So we are getting into the final flights here. The next one will be, we're currently into flight 22 out of 23 to finish up the prelim racing. If you're just joining us, the plan here is to finish up this entire 14-team round robin and then move on to championship round, a round of 8. Only the top 8 moving on to that one. There will be a consolation round in the white sails, but that'll kind of be drawn out. They'll do that without interfering with the championship round. And then the plan from there is hopefully to finish with the final 4 tomorrow to name our national champion. All right, well, coming back into the picture here, Navy trying to advance on Roger Williams. The 1-2 off the screen.
It looks like almost a wait.
Yeah, we need to pull back a little bit to see those top boats. They've really put in a gap here.
Ah, got it. Yeah, big time.
They got a puff right around Mark II, and that just kind of sprung them ahead.
And it looks like that black boat, the last boat for Roger Williams, might be catching up as well. Well, maybe not so much, actually, but they're desperately trying to grab that ace as Navy sort of sails in a pack right on top of each other down this run and really allowing the 1-2 for Roger Williams to extend. And Roger Williams is happy to see some breeze coming down the course and try to just get to that finish line as quick as he can before things can go awry.
Yeah, it seems like the longer the teams are sailing on that final leg, the more likely we are to see a lead change. So in the foreground is St. Mary's and Hobart getting ready. They're probably just now getting into sequence. And in the background, the yellow and black boats, Roger Williams in black, navy in yellow.
And actually getting pretty light now, it seems.
Yeah, you look at that lead boat for the Raj, boat 10, taking a huge tack. Some of the sails downwind for Navy starting to luff. Pretty hairy out there. I might recommend that they move closer to shore. Of course, my recommendations don't count for anything.
Yeah, I don't think that goes very far.
But really, you can see it. Look at these orange and green boats. This is Yale and Hawaii heading out, and they've got beautiful breeze. And out on the course, it's like 0.
Yep. And choppy. We see more and more boats starting to go by, celebrating their Memorial Day weekend.
Yep, lunch break is over. The St. Petersburg celebrants headed out for a day on the water. Doesn't do much for our race course. Well, we're happy to chat not only with each other, but we can chat with you viewers at home. Who are you guys rooting for? What do you want to know? Is there anybody that you'd like to hear from? We can pull somebody onto the microphone if we get a chance.
Wow. Roger Williams is like winning this race by half a leg now.
Yeah, it just took everybody got bunched up there at the bottom in that lull. And meanwhile, the right side of the course has just enough breeze to get those guys up the course. Look at that distance. If you don't know what you're looking at, the 2 black boats on the left of the screen are the lead boats for Roger Williams. The yellow boats, who are mixed in with all the rest of the fleet, is Navy. And I'm going to call this one. I don't think there's any way that they're going to catch them.
Knock on wood.
Clever.
Thanks.
Back to the course here. Looks like we've got Yale and Hawaii out on the course now.
Also, I think St. Mary's and Hobart race should be finishing up. They're the blue and red boats on the last beat. And they're in a good one. I think St. Mary's has the advantage.
Yeah, sorry to turn our attention away from the racing there, but we wanted to hear from our good friend George. Yes, in fact, we do have St. Mary's in blue and Hobart in red.
And it's a tight one. Hobart has the 1, but looks like also the 6. So can St. Mary's go into play 2? It's hard to tell how advantaged this furthest left orange boat is, or screen right orange boat. Or red, I should say. I'm lying. St. Mary's is in blue. Hobart is in red.
Yes.
My sincerest apologies.
It happens.
So St. Mary's in the 1, and it looks like Hobart now has successfully executed a play 2 pass back. But isn't that the finish over there? Looks like they're coming into Mark 1, doesn't it?
It does indeed.
Look what happens when we bring George Cooch to the mic. We just get all messed up. So they are, in fact, coming into Mark 1 in a pretty tight 2-3-4 for Hobart, if they can get around.
But 1 doing that nice, slow head-to-wind tack to make sure they don't leave their stern exposed. But I think they have enough gap there. They don't have to worry too much about it.
And great breeze they have now, so this looks like it's shaping up to be a pretty good run. We'll see if Hobart can keep it balanced here on their 2-3-4 down this run.
Yeah, look at that breeze kick up around Mark 2. And already Hobart thinking about protecting high, forcing that St. Mary's boat to go further than they wanted to.
And St. Mary's immediately going into that high-low, trying to pass the 4th boat for Hobart. And it might not take very long sailing that bit of extra distance as the 4 in a 2-3-4. You can quickly get past.
Yeah, what do you do here as Hobart going downwind? How do you protect this 2-3-4?
Well, I think that their 4th boat is doing exactly what they should be doing, protecting that high on port lane. And one of these, the 2 or the 3, typically the 3, I think, should be staying close on this low track to balance the St. Mary's boat that's going low, trying to get around the 4. Now it looks like a play change there by St. Mary's, giving up the 1.
Yeah, that Hobart boat just slipped in low, and St. Mary's completely changed their attention.
So now it's like a 1-3-5 sort of looking thing for Hobart right now. And St. Mary's needs to hop on this quickly before Hobart's able to transition into a play 1.
Heading upwind, we have Yale leading Hawaii in the orange and green. It looks like 3 pairs. So we'll just stick, can check in with that later, but we'll just stick with this race between St. Mary's and Hobart. Windows wide open for either team here.
Yeah, I'm a little bit surprised that the 1 for Hobart isn't playing back more aggressively, trying to go play 1. And again, it could just be this vantage point. And there's a circle now being taken by Hobart. So now in 6th. So St. Mary's now with a great opportunity to turn this into a play 2.
And now it becomes so much more important for that lead Hobart boat to get in it. They don't even have the ace.
Yep.
Well, but even without help, it looks like Hobart managed
Look
to
how choppy it's
get
getting
into that
to umpires. And
wow, look at that. That 3rd place Hobart boat just sailed right into the 1.
I think that just shows how strange this vantage point is for all of us trying to watch this. But yeah, it certainly does look like Hobart's getting around in a 1-2 with no ace once again going up this last beat. So certainly not over, and St. Mary's is hot on their tail. See if they can't chase them down on this shifty, puffy last beat. And as that last Hobart boat, you're thinking just get 1. If you can get 1 boat behind you, that just makes the world of difference for your teammates in the 1-2.
Hobart protecting high. And we see this on this. Remember, there are 4 marks here. We see the last couple boats going high and then jibing, double jibing.
And Hobart, yeah, desperately trying to get room there to try to pick up that pair. Actually, not a bad job, even though they didn't pass them. They separated a little bit. Took that 3rd St. Mary's boat a little bit more out of the picture as far as the chase. And watch Hobart here just trying to extend on the last beat, doing a bit of fleet racing, loose covering, trying to get there. And Windsurfer joining in the action.
That's a pretty good vantage point.
You got to be careful here as Hobart. That boat is, well, I can't tell, boat 7, I think, for Hobart. Did 2 quick tacks there. Got to make sure in this choppy stuff you're not doing too many tacks and slowing down. Can't be doing more tacks than your opponent.
Hobart's in the 1, 2, 3 boats. This is boat 1 trailing boat 2, boat 2, boat 3.
So that should be Eddie Cox and Johnny Norfleet, the 2 lead boats for Hobart, with Lewis Padnos trying to grab an ace back there for those guys. And is it me, or did they just get way more extended?
I think part of it is our vantage point, because we can't see so much the windward-leeward separation,
Yeah.
but it does look like an awful big gap there.
That just came out of nowhere, if that is in fact real. Although a little bit vulnerable left if you're Hobart, I'd say. St. Mary's now, at least one of them is tacked out going left and look like they're in good breeze and pressure. And Hobart's kind of just letting them get to the left. So when we pan more to the left here and take a look at those lead guys for Hobart, who now looks like now they're at least one is coming back, and we'll see the cross. Oh, not going to be a cross as St. Mary's goes back out left. But that's interesting. You typically don't see that loose of a cover by Hobart, but we'll see if it pays off trying to sail the shifts.
Well, if they learned any lessons from these other races, is that a 1-2 without an ace is a tough thing to keep. So maybe they're just sailing for pressure here.
But riddle me this. They have an ace, do they not? It looks like somebody must have spun for St. Mary's, because St. Mary's now has what looks to me like a deep 6.
It could be, or this boat could just be way off to the right.
Could be.
And coming back ahead on the next tack. It's a tricky angle to watch this from.
Yeah, don't get confused by this windsurfer we have out there with a red sail. That is in fact a windsurfer, not a team racer.
Well, that's going to do it for Hobart.
Yeah,
Man,
Hobart really extended. Great job by those guys. And Hobart, always a fast team in all conditions, and they'll do that to you. So that's a great win for Hobart. Unfortunate for St. Mary's.
So that brings the St. Mary's record down to 9-4, I believe, if our information's up to date. And that'll bump Hobart up to 6-7. Well, meanwhile, Yale continuing to lead the University of Hawaii. It looks like a 1-2-3 for Yale. That'll be this is race 87 coming to a close, and then also on the course we should have the white sails, race 88, Boston College in light blue versus Wisconsin in pink. Wisconsin, of course, where we have the home school for George Kuchenreuter, who was just chatting with us in the broadcast booth a few minutes ago.
And as we talked about before, this is certainly a must-win if you're Boston College. Certainly not a gimme, as Wisco's fast and quite good at team racing. But if you're Boston College, you got to be thinking you need this one.
Yeah, and the way I have the results online, we've got Navy sitting in that 8th spot with a 500 record, 6 wins, 6 losses. BC sitting in 9th, 5-7. So a win here at least leaves the possibility for making it into the championship round. I'd say this is absolutely a do or die for
Navy,
BC.
I believe, has to race Roger Williams. Or maybe they just, I guess they just did. So Navy's done.
So maybe they should have more races then. I may just be one race behind on the results.
But either way, it looks like Boston College there with a 1-2-3 around mark 1 and 2 against Wisco, who is now spinning, looks like, for hitting a mark. So now we see the third guy, Boston College, slowing up, trying to put in a gap for his homies in the 1-2. It's a nice job. Good look for BC.
So if that last Navy race against Roger Williams is the one that's not scored, that's another loss. That means that Navy's actually 6-7. BC 5-7.
And about to become 6-7.
Yeah, I think the online scoring may be a few races behind. They may have identical records, as a matter of fact. They may be both 6-7.
Well, an interesting question from our viewer, my good friend Alex Bertrand wants to know how I stay so chiseled. Green vegetables and milk. I hardly ever sit on the couch and watch TV. I'm often very active. I go running a lot. I do a lot of bench press, whey protein, I don't have any cats. Cats, I hear, get you out of shape really quickly. I know Alex is a big fan of cats. So if you're looking for a tip, maybe get rid of the felines there, Alex. Thanks for asking.
Yeah, thanks for that answer, Zeke. It's
Anytime.
complete. Well, back to the race. Coming downwind here. These white sails are a little bit more difficult to identify on the downwind legs here.
I think the ones that are winning are Boston College, and the ones that are losing are the Wisconsin Badgers.
Yeah, I think that's correct.
Oftentimes, so we just saw, I believe that was Alex Cook for Boston College again, trying to put that gap in at Mark II. Definitely a good move. Oftentimes you see that guy get a little bit overzealous and do too much and end up putting himself in 6, but looks like Alex did a pretty good job bumping a little bit, getting a gap in, but staying in 3rd, which is exactly what his team needs him to do. So nice job by him. Maybe some breeze freshening, at least on shore again. It looks pretty good for the guys that are reaching back towards us now, planing.
Well, BC's got this one pretty well locked. Yale just finished.
I think they are finishing, or did they finish?
Oh, no, you're
Green
right.
and orange.
They're coming up to the finish line now. They've still got the 1, 2, 3. As we fly across the race course.
It's actually getting pretty hairy there, it looks like, for Yale and Green. I don't think they've got the 3. Well, it looks like they actually have a 1-3 at the moment, as you see. I think that's Graham Landy for Yale in boat 14, now luffing his jib, trying to get his teammate back across. Must have gotten, you can tell it looks really light and weird over there. Some weird stuff must have happened on this last beat to give Hawaii a fighting chance, but pass back going pretty well there for Yale, and they're right back into their 1-2. And maybe even back into their 1-2-3 as they get to the finish.
So with this race, Yale is actually going to finish up its prelims with only a single loss. Unbelievable. They're going to finish this up 12-1, dropping only 1 race to Brown. And that was, I think, yesterday. So Yale will be the #1 ranked team going into the championship round.
Yeah, good for Yale. I think we were all sort of wondering how it was going to go for them this year. Last year, they were certainly one of the best teams in college sailing, getting a lot of wins on the team racing circuit, and then getting blown out in their qualifier for NISA, and they were the #1 team in the country going into their NISA qualifier and not qualifying for nationals last year. So this year was certainly a rebound year for them, and looks like they've learned their lesson as far as getting it done when it matters most.
Yep, and not leaving it to chance this year. That extra 4th berth going to Roger Williams this year in NISA. But Yale.
So we may be going back to the starting line for black and yellow, which will be College of Charleston in black versus Texas A&M Galveston in yellow. Charleston right now with an 8-4 record, I believe, sitting in about 5th, just a little bit off the pace from Stanford and St. Mary's. But you got to think that this is probably a race Charleston's got to have against Texas A&M, who is not likely to make the gold round. Actually looking for their first win, it seems. Looks like they're just about to get going into sequence. So if we maybe go back to the last beat where we had Boston College and those blue sails with Wisconsin in pink, and we should still see Boston College with quite an advantage there, getting up this last beat. It's interesting to look at how different the first beat is from the last beat as well as far as the conditions are concerned. I'm thinking, I'm not out there, I'm far from it, but it seems like it's far choppier out on the outer edge of this course on the last beat. That's why we've seen so many things changing so quickly over there. But nothing changing here for Boston College, running away with a win over Wisconsin. So that will be the last race for both of those teams. Wisconsin not going to make the finals. They'll finish, looks like, with just 2 wins. And Boston College certainly doing themselves some favors, comparing themselves to Navy and Hobart. And we'll see, again, Georgetown is not in just yet, as they've got the last race of the series against Stanford. Will be a big race. So this is all going to come down to the wire for this last couple spots into the gold round.